Welcome to this series of the Home Remote instructional videos. It's the beginning of 2020 and the Home Remote has just released a major step change, version 3, which has added a lot of additional features and capabilities. However, it has changed the look and feel of the designer somewhat, so I wanted to take this opportunity to re-record some of these videos, as well as take the opportunity to update and recreate my own Home Remote. So if you're just now getting into the Home Remote or home automation in general, it's a great time as a lot of newcomers are in asking a lot of beginner questions, as well as veterans being around making requests and tweaks to update their own remotes to work with the new version. So if you're not familiar with the Home Remote as a whole already, it's a great tool. It's extremely good value for the money. It's available in the iOS, Android, and Windows-based stores. It does have some built-in navigational elements as well as device support. However, what these videos are going to focus on is devices that are not native to the Home Remote's application, as well as being able to completely customize the UI, which I feel is the strongest selling point of this application. So really, to unlock the secrets of this application, we're going to start on the Home Remote's website just by scrolling down here to the very bottom, and we're going to need the designer. We can click once here to download and install this application. If you're familiar with Windows development, you'll notice this is a click once application, meaning you do not need administrative credentials to install it. If we didn't already have the latest version of .NET, or maybe we were missing some critical Windows updates, we would have to do those first. However, this installation is already up to date on Windows 10, so all I need to do is click once to install. While this is downloading and installing, I'll just talk briefly about the .hrp file format that Home Remote utilizes. It's an all-in-one file format which controls everything from the pages, the XML, the images you include, as well as any device commands. That file format is understandable both by the designer and all of the mobile applications regardless of platform. So what we're going to focus on this video is really how to get a .hrp from the designer down to our mobile devices so that any changes we make, we can then deploy easily. So once the Home Remote's designer has fired up, I'll pause the video just for a second in order to align things so that we can begin. Okay, we've got the designer, and I'll just take this quick opportunity to discuss what we're actually going to be doing. I'm using my living room here as my studio for these videos, and what I have behind me is a Vizio M70 TV. And over to my right on my equipment rack, supporting my 7.1 in-wall surround sound system, I have an Onkyo TX NR636 receiver, as well as a couple of video gaming consoles, a current generation 4K Apple TV, I have a network switch, and a global cache IR ITAC infrared sending device. Now, ordinarily, I also have a QNAP NAS unit here, 8-bay storage device, which I also have Kodi installed on, which is doing some media storage for me, so that may be showcased in a later video as well. This is also a good opportunity to talk about needing a solid network. The Home Remote utilizes at its core your phone's Wi-Fi to communicate with other devices on your network. This means that your phone must be on the same wireless network as your hardwired devices. So if you're using a guest or anyway encapsulated network, this is not going to work. You need to be able to ping or access your devices directly from your phone. I've already gone through those steps here at my house. We have a good, robust network and Wi-Fi system here, so we're ready to go. We're going to start here in the designer, up at File and clicking New. First question this asks us for a new project is it's going to ask us which device we'd like to develop for. Now it's going to give us all three options, but ultimately this doesn't really matter as much as you may think. The same .hrp file we create for one device will work basically just the same on any other device without any modifications. What this is actually going to do is control how your device's UI is displayed within the designer, and there is some small subtle differences between Windows, iOS, and Android, just on the way that the phones appear here within the designer. It's not that big of a deal, like I said, so I'm just going to choose to do iOS. And then it's going to prompt us with our first set of instructions to right-click on devices to add any devices we want to control. We're actually going to skip that because, like I said, the purpose of this video is just to make sure we've got a good way to get our files down to our mobile devices. And to explain the built-in navigational elements, I'm going to come over to the main page.xaml and double click. What the main page.xaml does is it's always going to be the default page loaded by version 3 clients. Over here on the left-hand side is the pop-out menu feature, which includes the HomeRemote's logo, and then below it you can see that it has home with an icon. The default option here is that it's going to use the built-in native group functionality in order to allow you to navigate between pages and devices. And what we're actually going to do in this video series is bypass that built-in navigational feature, because when the HomeRemote starts for the first time on my device, I just want it to go to a blank page that I can basically do whatever I want to with it. Just to give you an example of what's on the phone right now, if I am to bring up the device straight out of the Apple Store, or this is actually an Android device, you can see that it looks exactly like the designer that I just had open. It's got some instructions here in the middle. It's got a menu option, and you can see that everything says home on it. And basically, when I am able to get a different page to show up when I first start my remote, then effectively I'll know that I've got my HRP sent down correctly. So just to take on the designer, I'm going to come over here on the main pages.xaml, and what I'm going to do is change this setting over here where it says is groups visible, and I'm going to change that to false, which will take away that first home link we had there. So now instead I need a new default page for the HomeRemote to go to when it first boots up. To do this, I'm going to create a new menu item by clicking on the ellipses over on the right hand side of menu items. Down here in the bottom left, I'll click plus to add an item. And here it'll give me a new page where I can do the title, and I'll just put this as YouTube. I'm going to leave the icon as a home icon, and for the page, because I don't already have one I want to do, I just want a new blank page. I'll click OK. And now it's going to ask me what I'd like that page's XAML name to be. I'll leave this as blank, and I do want it to be a content page, so I'll click OK. Now you can see behind this collection editor window, I have my new menu object, YouTube, and effectively what's going to happen is when the remote boots up for the first time on my mobile device, it'll look at the main page.xaml. It will see that the YouTube page link is the first to go to, therefore it will load that by default, and we will end up here over on page 1. The next thing to do is make sure that we've got something for the page to display. So in order to do this, I'll just select Control. I'll just take a label option, and you can see when I scroll over the designer, my mouse UI has now changed to crosshairs. With the label selected, I'm going to click and drag any particular area that's easily visible, and now I have my first label control. You can see it's over here on the outline section of the designer as a child to this larger grid element, and within my label, one of the options over here on the right is text. Rather than clicking the ellipses this time, I'm just going to edit the value itself, and we'll just put it as Hello World. I've tabbed to confirm that selection rather than pressing enter, which you'll see me do frequently through this series. Now once I've got my label here, I could resize it or reposition it in many different ways, but the point is we have some text there that clearly was not there before. Now the next step is let's get it to the mobile devices. I'm going to choose up here to save my device. I'll be saving mine to the desktop because I'm lazy like that. I'll just title it here real quick of YouTube version 3 1.1, and now I've got it saved. I'm going to minimize this momentarily. Here's my file I just created, which I will copy, and then we'll open up Dropbox over here and paste it in. So now I've sent my .hrp to Dropbox. Okay, now we have our Android device fired up here with Dropbox logged in. Down here at the bottom, you can see the YouTube version 3 1.1.hrp file we created using the designer. I'm just going to click once on that, and you will see that the application fires up. It does indeed have our Hello World message here, which means that it has bypassed the built-in navigational elements, and it's now loading the page1.xaml by default. Now looking at my daughter's iPad running iOS, we can see again we're logged into Dropbox, and here we can see the YouTube version 3 1.1.hrp file we created in our designer. We've already clicked on it once, and now we're going to go up to the top right and click the ellipses submenu. Here we'll need to select Export, And at the top, you'll notice a list of applications of which iOS believes the .hrp file will be compatible with. If the home remote is not listed here like mine is, you may need to choose the More option, in which Apple will list all of the available applications that can open this file. You'll need to choose the Copy to Home Remote option. Again, the home remote opens up, and this time we can see our Hello World message over here on the left. And on this device, I do want to draw attention down here to the blue bar indicating that we need to purchase a Pro license. This is because Home Remote has detected that we are no longer using the free built-in templates and devices, and it's waiting for a license key, which you can purchase through the Apple Store. I absolutely highly recommend doing so. It is a fantastic value, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Now that we've been successful getting our designer files down to our mobile devices, we can just replicate these same steps each time we make modifications through the designer. I think it's probably about time to stop this video as it's already quite long in length, but if you follow along with us through the entire series, we'll be going step by step creating each design, UI, and device element used to control this room's remote. We hope you follow along, and we'll see you in the next one.